Elizabeth, recently I went to my college reunion and with two of my roommates, we got an Airbnb right near campus and it was so fun. It was so fun to stay together. We had a kitchen. We could just hang out in such a comfortable way. And it was so convenient to all the places that we wanted to go. And all of us are really picky eaters. And we could all have our own kind of snacks all loaded up into the kitchen so that we could have exactly what we wanted whenever we wanted it. It just wouldn't have been the same if we had stayed at a hotel. It really added to my whole experience of my reunion.
And also, Gretchen, you don't have to deal with noisy hotel hallways, cramped rooms. You can really tailor it for what you want.
The national sales event is on at your Toyota dealer, making now the perfect time to get a great deal on a dependable new car.
Like a legendary Camry, built for performance and available with all-wheel drive, you can count on your new Camry to get anywhere you need to go. And with available features like heated seats and a multimedia touchscreen, you can stay connected in comfort and style.
Or check out an affordable and reliable Corolla with a trim for every lifestyle, from the hip and agile sedan to the sporty hatchback. There's a dependable Corolla built just for you.
Plus, both Camrys and Corollas are available in hybrid models, so no matter your style, you can drive efficiently and affordably.
So visit your local Toyota dealer and check out amazing national sales event deals on Camrys, Corollas, and more when you visit buyatoyota.com.
Toyota, let's go places.
Hello, we're here for More Happier, a podcast where we get more happier. Join us for some weekend listening as we kick back and get more happier with kind of a looser vibe. Hey, Elizabeth.
Hi, Gretch.
So today we will talk about some quality screen time and talk about a family question related to holiday traditions. But before we jump in, Elizabeth, from time to time we get a note from a listener to tell us that the phrase more happier isn't grammatically correct.
Yes, and we are aware of this. We did that on purpose. It's our little in-joke because we are normally people who would not have incorrect grammar.
Yeah, so this is just us being funny. And maybe if you have to explain a joke, it's not so funny. But to us, it's very funny. We get a big kick out of more happier. So, but fear not, we recognize that we are making a grammatical choice.
Yes.
But Elizabeth, what is making us more happier?
Well, Gretch, here's what's making me more happier. You and I were both in Kansas City recently, and Mom brought out this pair of black pants and said, "These aren't working for me, Elizabeth. Do you want to try them on and see if they work for you?" And Gretchen, I tried on these black pants and I absolutely love them. They are so comfortable. I think they look great. You can attest.
No, they look great. They really do. I mean, they look exceptionally good. Because sometimes you just need a pair of black pants, but these look really good.
And they're kind of the loose, baggy style. I've been looking for like a wider leg.
That can be hard to find exactly the perfect pant. Yeah.
Well, that's what's funny is I've tried on many of pants looking for exactly what Mom just put in my hand.
Yeah.
So I've already worn them many times.
Really?
They just are so easy and chic and comfortable. But it's just that thing where it made me so happy because it was just like this gift out of the blue that I just absolutely loved. And then I think it also made Mom happy that the pants are getting used.
Yes.
And that I love them so much.
No, I think she got a huge kick out of it. Well, one of the things is we often talk about, I wish I could get a present in the mail.
Yeah.
Or something as meaning like, I want something good and unexpected to happen that I don't have to earn or work for.
Yeah.
And it is true that an unexpected gift often boosts our spirits. I know there's research when they're trying to affect people's moods. One of the things they'll do sometimes is give people a little gift. It just makes us feel good. Because I was there when this was all happening and I got such a buzz from it because it was such a win-win because clearly Mom was like, when you get something and you're like, well, they're okay, but do I really like them? And then they clearly looked fantastic on you. So now they can go live a long and happy life serving you well. And she doesn't have them on her conscience or like, ugh, that was kind of a mediocre purchase. It was clearly a great purchase for you. And you can always tell too when people immediately put something on.
Yes.
That's always, I think, a good test. Is like, do you feel like wearing this right now? Or are you like, oh, this will come in handy one day?
Yes.
Now, if I'm like, this will come in handy one day, I try not to get it. It's like, do you feel like wearing it now? You put them on and wore them that day.
Yes, absolutely. And another reason I know I love them is the other day I actually ironed them.
Ooh,
Gretchen,
next
I don't
level.
think I have taken out an iron in, I mean, probably years. And I said, oh, I need to wear these, but they're wrinkled, so I'm going to iron them. So
there you go.
Thank you, Mom, for my unexpected, wonderful gift.
Yeah.
Gretch, what is making you more happier?
Okay, my memento journal. So, I had this, for me, an extremely unusually travel-heavy summer.
Yes.
I'm kind of a homebody. I travel a lot for work, but I usually don't do very many big trips, especially in a short amount of time. But this summer, it just ended up that way. And I love having an exact place for things. Like, I like knowing the AAA batteries go into the basket on the second shelf from the bottom on the right side of the pantry or whatever. I like knowing exactly where everything is. And it gives me a lot of pleasure to say, oh, I know, exactly where to put this thing. And I love having the memento journal just for this summer because I have the different pockets for each of the different places that I went. And so now I'll have like a book that is like the summer of 2024, and I'll have all the things in there. And as I was collecting them, when I was in Japan, I had to do something with my luggage. It's complicated. But anyway, I got this tag. And I mean, this tag was so beautiful. The colors of it, everything about it. I'm like, this is gorgeous. I feel like I could frame this and hang it in a bathroom. It was so, but I'm like, okay, I know exactly where to put it so it will stay flat and it won't get lost and it'll be collected among all my mementos for that trip because it's meaningful to me. And so it's just so satisfying to almost like putting things away in a dollhouse, where I'm like, oh, this goes in this pocket and this goes in this pocket. Or, or from our hiking trip, I had like a map that I kept it was just fun because it was just a map of one area of the Lake District. I'm like, this would just be the kind of thing in future years I'd get a kick out of looking at it.
Yeah.
But where do you put those things?
Well, Gretchen, isn't it lucky that you actually made a memento journal for yourself that you could then use?
I'm my own best customer.
Yeah.
Yes. Nobody else wants them. I'll keep getting them because anyway. But anyway, it just filled me with delight because I just really like that feeling of knowing, okay, I know exactly where this goes. Yes. I know exactly where I'll find. In 10 years, Elizabeth, you'll say to me, what was the name of the hotel where we stayed when we were in London? And I will say, I do not remember because 100% I won't remember, but I will go look in the memento journal and I put something in there that has the name of the hotel. And so we will be able to solve that mystery, which probably will happen one day.
Yeah, it really does help keep the memory in a spot where you can go visit it.
Yes. Yeah. So that just makes me very happy. And I'll post a link in the show notes if anybody wants to look at the memento journal for themselves, because I think for a certain kind of personality, it's very satisfying.
Yes. All right, Gretch, coming up, we're going to talk about some quality screen time. But first, this break. Gretch, we both love Whole Foods Market, and we love shopping there when they have big sales for Thanksgiving or Mother's Day. But the fact is, there are lots of ways to save on quality items every day at Whole Foods Market. And with this being back to school season, it's great for me because Jack takes his lunch to school every day, and I want it to be healthy, high quality, and Whole Foods Market is a perfect place to shop.
You can get back to school ready at Whole Foods Market with savings on parent-approved snacks, organic lunchbox finds, and more. And with 365 by Whole Foods Market, their store brand will give you all the quality you expect from Whole Foods Market at prices your wallet will love. And these items are all over the store. There are literally thousands of them. Pantry staples, better than cage-free eggs, organic ketchup. It's terrific for both quality and price. There are so many ways to save at Whole Foods Market. Now you know. Okay, Elizabeth, quality screen time. You say you found a show that you're really excited about. What is it? I'm so curious.
Yes. Okay. It is called America's Sweethearts, Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. And the description is follow the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders from auditions to training camp and the NFL season as they chase their dreams and a coveted spot on the squad. So, Gretchen, this is a 7-episode docuseries on Netflix. Everybody knows about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, and this is a really interesting look inside their world. It's funny because like 10 people told me to watch this and told me I would love it. And I kind of resisted because I thought, I don't know.
No, I know exactly that feeling. And yet I feel like I need to push back.
Yes.
And they're always right. They're always right.
They're always right. And then, so finally I sat down, of course, 30 seconds in, I was like, I must watch this entire series today. I absolutely loved it. What's interesting is that it's very thought-provoking because there's a lot of elements to it. And one thing is the cheerleaders have to re-audition every single year, which to me just seems so tough. So it's only a 1-year gig.
So you have to be chosen from all the people who are auditioning over
every single year.
Wow.
Yes.
Gosh.
Now, of course, you have an advantage at that point because you know all the dances. They have to learn like 50 different dances.
Oh, wow.
It's very intense dancing, but they really get picked apart. And that is problematic, obviously, in some ways. Yeah. But what I will say is you walk away from this with such respect for these women who really put so much into it. And they almost all of them have other jobs because this job pays very little.
Yeah, I've heard the disgust.
Yes. And they're really impressive people who put their heart into this, who are incredible athletes. Also, they give so much to the community and to each other. It's an incredibly supportive atmosphere. They really lift each other up. So I just recommend watching it because it gets your mind going in a million different ways. And it's just gripping.
It's this thing that you and I both love where you go deep into a world that you know nothing about. That it's just this fascinating window into a whole subculture that maybe you are only vaguely aware of or see only the outer part of it. It's so exciting when you sort of get into the inside and see. This is maybe part of that category, Elizabeth, of like Heads in Beds or The Secret Lives of Grocery Stores or Traffic, which so many listeners say that they like these kind of books too, where you see your ordinary world differently because you have so much more information because the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, they're sort of like, I don't really watch sports, so they're very much on the edges of my consciousness, but they're there.
Yes.
And now I'd be like, ooh, I'm sure if I watched this, I would be much more interested just because I understand how the world works so much better.
I think you would be. And I think it's also just a glimpse into sort of Texas, which is also its own culture and is very interesting. Yeah. So there's just... And there's very strong women leading the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader organization, or DCC, as we in the know say.
Okay.
So there's just so many compelling characters.
So listen, I have to tell you my bonkers story about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. This was when I was still clerking for Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, so I was working as a law clerk. But this was the time when I was absolutely preoccupied with this subject, power, money, fame, sex, which to me was like a unified subject. And I was doing huge amounts of research and note-taking. And at this point, probably, I hadn't realized this is the kind of thing a person would do if they were going to write a book, and I should be the person to write that book. I was just doing it as part of the process I did all growing up when I would just get really interested in something and take notes. But, I'd had this thing where I got really interested in the subject of power, money, fame, sex, which is, I thought of them as like a quartet of things that were all deeply related. That ultimately became my first book. But leading up to, so when I was clerking, one of the things that people don't realize, at least at that time, is if you were a Supreme Court justice, you were allowed to actually check out books from the Library of Congress. Most people, I think, can only look at them in the Library of Congress, but if you're a Supreme Court justice, you could take them out. So I would check out all these books for Justice O'Connor's chambers, and nobody ever said a word to me what they thought when I checked out this book, Deep in the Heart of Texas, Reflections of Former Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders by Suzette, Stephanie, and Sherry Schultz. This is a 1991 book. I read it when I was there, and I was so fascinated by it that I actually bought a copy. So I own my own copy of this book, Deep in the Heart of Texas. It is the true story of three sisters who were all Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. And it is such a meditation on the nature of fame. When you were telling me about this, I'm like, I remember this book extremely well, and what they said at that time, which I'm sure it's very different now than it was then, or maybe not so different in some ways, but it's just this absolutely fascinating book. So again, it's an example of like when you go deep into something and you're thoughtful, there's so much to be interested in and learn.
Yeah, so I think you should watch this because even though you have read that book, I still think you'll find this very interesting.
So outdated.
And
now.
I want to read Deep in the Heart of Texas, absolutely.
Okay.
Because, once I like something, now I want to see 5 shows about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
Yes.
I want to read everything. I need to know more. No,
it's like the Beatles musical process. It's like, where are the rest of the, we've had 2 big documentaries. It's not enough. We need to know more about the Beatles and their musical process. Good. Okay. I cannot wait to watch. I will post a picture of the book in the show notes. So if anybody wants to go see what the book looks like, if you're thinking about what's a 90s book about 3 sisters who are all Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, that is what the book looks like. I will post a photo of it so people can see. And Elizabeth, I will lend it to you.
Great. Okay, Gretchen, it is time for Spotlight on a Tool. What is our tool this week?
Okay, listen, this is a tool that I know you really like. It works for a lot of people, and that is a Don't Break the Chain habit tracker. So this is a thing that you can get if you want to track a habit. Labor Day is coming up on September 2nd here in the United States. And September is the other January. For a lot of people, this is a time to recommit to a habit or okay, let's start again with something if it makes you happier or healthier or more productive or more creative. So if you use the habit tracker, it's just a very good way if you want to try to monitor something like taking regular breaks during your workday or checking in with your team or starting each day with a to-do list or whatever it is that you want to do this time of year. It can be really helpful to use this tracker.
Yes, it was super helpful for me with my Fryman 100 that I did last year. Yeah. Keeping track on paper. I weigh myself every day. That I record actually on your app, your Happier app.
Yes.
But for Fryman, the habit tracker was perfect.
Yeah. So if you want to check it out, go to happiercast.com/chain and you can see what the paper version of this looks like. If this is the kind of, for some people, this just works really, really well. This kind of streak or this tracking, this monitoring, it's very effective.
All right, Gretch, coming up, there's something you've been meaning to ask me, but first, this break. Are you trying to figure out what to eat for dinner yet again? With Knorr's sides and bouillon, you can whip up delicious and nutritious weeknight dinners in no time.
Yes, I am the biggest fan of Knorr bouillon and of Knorr taste combos. Knorr taste combos are a menu of delicious, affordable, and well-balanced meals that you can prepare at home in 30 minutes or less. Knorr is the not-so-secret ingredient from its bouillon to its rice and pasta sides that brings major flavor to delicious home-cooked meals. Visit Knorr.com to make your own delicious taste combo. It's not fast food, but it's so good.
I have a 14-year-old son, Jack, and I want him to feel like he can explore online, that he can know what's going on, that he has independence. But the fact is, as teens start exploring online, it's natural that we as parents want to make sure that the content they're seeing on TikTok is safe. And I am so glad that TikTok has a family pairing feature that really helps.
Yeah, TikTok's family pairing feature lets parents link their TikTok account to their teens, helping ensure the content they're seeing is safe and age appropriate. Parents can restrict access to search, enable restricted mode to limit content that may not be age appropriate, and choose words or hashtags to filter from their teens' feeds. These are tools that we as parents love to have when our children are using TikTok. Learn about family pairing and more at tiktok.com/guardiansguide.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What's something you'd love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you'd like, or was that lost in childhood? something we always talk about is that living in an atmosphere of growth is so important for one's overall sense of well-being. Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back-to-school era can come at any age. I know whenever I'm in therapy, I'm much more open to new experiences.
If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with the licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/GretchenRubin today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/GretchenRubin.
Okay, Gretch, we are back. What have you been meaning to ask me?
Okay, this is a question about traditions, and I was just thinking about this. Do you think that every family needs a person who will sort of play the role of the tradition enforcer, or maybe like the celebration enforcer, being the person who herds the cats around these celebrations, these traditions that we're often trying to maintain over the years?
I would say yes, very much so.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I was sort of paying attention to this because, so here in New York City, there's the four of us. Of course, now the two girls are out of the house, open door. But over the years, we were together, and Eliza's still in New York City, whatever. Eleanor just left. And then there's my in-laws, my mother and father-in-law, who live right around the corner from me. We do not even cross the street to get to my in-laws' apartment. They live right around the corner. And then Jamie's brother and his wife and their two kids live in New York City as well. And it happens that our birthdays fall into like three very obvious clumps. And then there's like one, my father-in-law, his birthday is kind of like a standalone. But the other ones, they fall into these clumps. And what I've noticed is that for years, my mother-in-law was the one who's saying like, oh, we've got all the February birthdays coming up. Let's pick a date. And do we want to have brunch or do we want to have dinner? Do you want to do it this day or this day? And we kind of get the ball rolling and then we would all do it. But then somehow it has passed to me. And I am now the birthday organizer and enforcer. And this happened sort of without me realizing it. And then I thought, wow, this is actually a responsibility. This is actually something where I have to say, like, this is my role. I am the birthday celebration enforcer. Not enforcing in a bad way, but just I'm the one that says, like, hey, everybody, don't forget. And we need to set aside a time. And I think somebody does need to play that role because I don't think it just automatically happens. You need somebody who feels that responsibility, I think. I fear that if it could otherwise just slip away. And it's important.
Yes. And on this West Coast, I would say my sister-in-law, Michelle, very much has that role, whether she wants it or not, for the most part. And thank goodness she does, because I am not good at it at all.
I also think that even if you're not the one doing it, you can play your part. And so, Liz, you may not be so much of the enforcer, but knowing you as I do, I bet you're really good at responding to emails and saying this date doesn't work, but this date works. Or like, what can I bring? Like you cooperate, which I would say is like.
I know my role.
The best thing is to be an enforcer. The second thing is to be a cooperator, because then they're the people who don't answer your emails or just say like, oh, well, those dates don't work for us. And then you're like, okay, but then what dates do work? Whatever.
Yes,
so yes. Well, how about you, Elizabeth? Are there places where you are the enforcer?
Yeah, well, one thing I realized pretty recently is that in the tradition of giving gifts, okay? So let's call giving gifts a tradition.
Sure.
Adam and I aren't that into gifts for each other. We're not that focused on it. And what I realized is that it was sort of an area where we were not doing Jack justice because, yes, we get him gifts, but we weren't teaching him to get other people gifts because it wasn't like, oh my gosh, it's Dad's birthday. Now, like, what are we getting Dad for birthday? And what are we getting Mom for Mother's Day and all of that? And so one thing that I'm actually now really consciously doing is trying to teach Jack sort of the whole process of gifts of that you have to think, okay, it's going to be Father's Day. What do I want to get Dad? Now I have to go and get it. And I have to, write a card. I would say I'm doing not great, but I am working on it. And I've got another 4 years of him at home to get this going more. But it is on me because definitely I'm the only one who can teach him this tradition?
Well, it's interesting because when you're really little, you really are just kind of free riding along with the adults. But when you're older, you do start to have more to contribute. Like I remember a couple Father's Days ago, Eliza, Eleanor, and I went shopping for Jamie, and they picked something that I was like, I don't think he's really going to like it, but they were so excited about it. It was this bag. They were so excited about it that I was like, okay, well, let's just get it. He'll be just delighted that they picked it out for him. He uses that bag every single day.
Wow.
But you're right. You kind of have to be the enforcer to say, like, okay, this is coming up.
Yeah.
Do we have ideas? Do we want to go look together? Do we want to even just come up with some notions of what it would be? A writing project that I was interested in, I got into all of the research and philosophy and thinking around gift giving. And there is so much around gifts. Gifts are really, really important in human cultures because you might say like, well, we shouldn't be materialistic, but you're like, well, maybe it's a card then, but it's still something that it's an exchange of some kind. So, well, and I've been thinking about this, of course, because of my whole thing about the 4th of July. And now that we have this new house, this is the thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, the new house, and it's got to be the 4th of July, and it's a lake, and what's more 4th of July than a lake? And we've got to have hot dogs, and we'll all jump in the lake together on the 4th of July, and we'll all have 4th of July t-shirts, and we'll make red, white, and blue desserts, but I have to be the person who does that.
Yeah.
But I really want to do it, and I really want it to be part of this new house because I want it to be a thing that is part of our enjoyment of it, that makes it special and like brings it into the life of our family. So we have to come up with these new traditions, and then I need to enforce these new traditions because maybe they will take hold and then other people will keep them going, but I anticipate that for at least a couple of years, it's going to be a lot of me being like, hey, do you have your 4th of July t-shirt? Whatever.
Well, you just got this house in the country, so it is the time to start a new tradition. It's the perfect time.
Yes. Well, in fact, if there are other new traditions that I should be enforcing, anybody tell me. I would love that. Like, would you have any like cool, like, oh, we have our house at the lake or whatever it is? Like, that's a great question. I would love that because I want it to be special. And at the beginning, you can kind of get these things going more easily because people's expectations haven't solidified. So that is a great suggestion. But, there's funny little traditions that are almost unspoken. Elizabeth, the way when we go to Kansas City, Mom will often put a little bouquet of carnations in the guest room, or she or Dad have found articles or books that they think will like, they'll put them in this like one specific place for us for when we arrive. I'm just thinking of this now. No one's ever said a word about it. And yet they add so much to life. Traditions. I'm fascinated by them.
All right, Gretchen, what is our quotation this week?
This comes from G.K. Chesterton, Tremendous Trifles. He writes, "The world will never starve for want of wonders, but only for want of wonder."
Ooh, I like that.
So, Elizabeth, are you feeling more happier?
Yes, I am feeling more happier. Thank you to Chuck. Get in touch. Gretchen's on Threads, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at Gretchen Rubin, and I'm on Threads and Instagram at Liz Craft. Our email address is podcast@GretchenRubin.com. And for everything related to this episode, links, photos, and more, go to happiercast.com. Bye, Gretch.
Bye, Elizabeth. The best time to start a happiness project is 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
Well, and Gretch, you and I both, of course, love Dolly Parton. And during this season they're following of the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders, she came and performed with them and wore a Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders outfit.
Wow.
Modified. Yes.
Oh, I cannot wait to watch. She would be good. One of the things I want to do as part of my tradition is to play 4th of July music. But I feel like Dolly Parton is 4th of July music. Okay, I'll write that down. From the Onward Project.